Warning, everything in this video and on this channel is for educational purposes only. All content is intended for viewers 21 years of age or older. All acts are performed by professionals, and all people shown are 21 years of age or older. All acts are performed under the legal Chapter 67(8)(d) here in Nevada. Please do not attempt to recreate or reenact anything you see on this channel. Welcome back to From the Stash Podcast. We've got a great episode planned today. We're diving into genetics, land races, and the future of all of it in this episode.
But before we get to it, we're going to do a quick shout out to our sponsors, what make this show possible.
Pigeons 420. Mr. Grow It. From the Stash Podcast.
This episode is brought to you by AC Infinity. Check out their all-in-one pH pen, which measures pH, EC, TDS, and temperature. The sensor probe is replaceable, and it comes with storage solution and calibration solutions. Click the link in the description section below so you can learn more about their all-in-one pH pen, and the discount code THESTASH15 works on both Amazon and their website, acinfinity.com.
Growers who are looking for that secret sauce usually are just missing something from their garden. And to help with that, we bring you the Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Stash Blend brings beneficial bacteria, silicon, seaweed, humic acid, and has enough macronutrition to help lower the dosages of your base feed too. Unleash your plant's true potential with Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Available at Growers House. From the Stash Podcast, we are back. Thanks to Seedsman.
In person, boys.
Yes.
Yo, shout out Seedsman.
Unfortunately, I put the logo too low, guys, but shout out to Seedsman. The Stash is the discount code, man. They helped us get out here. Those are the homies. But we're back together, boys. Let's do these
Yeah,
nuts.
it feels good, boys. Good to see you, gentlemen. Good to see you. Feels good. Great conversation ahead of us. Genetics. We're going to be talking genetics and land races in particular, which I think is a great conversation because we would not be in this modern landscape of this plant if it wasn't for the land races. So I'm excited about this one, boys. We've never talked about this before.
When you think about the new generation of consumers, probably have no fucking clue what a landrace is, what it does, and how the genetics came to be. Like where these new genetics, these are the great grandparents in a lot of cases. And I think explaining the lineage more of what you're consuming will give you the knowledge of why you're consuming it. And I'm in the point now where like, if I don't know what I'm consuming, just the name of it, I'm like, what are the grandparents? Like, what are the parents? That's how I want to consume because I'll know the terpene expression more in that sense. If someone's telling me there's a haze in it, it might be too lethargic for me. It might be something I don't want, but I don't know until I get through and know what the landrace is. Usually, like that lineage. Yeah, let's dive into it, boys.
I'm ready. Now,
Chris, you put together a list so we're not just talking on some dumb, which is beautiful.
Yeah, got the list here to make sure. There's so many land races.
I would used to just say like 5. Literally.
And you think about it, like from all over the world too, from South America to Pakistan, in the Middle East, like the Hindu Kush Mountains, which I think is crazy.
I'm so dumb that I did not realize. I was like, dudes, did you know the Hindu Kush Mountains are everything? They mostly named it from the bud. It's like, no, this is where it originated from. Now it all makes sense.
Yeah, and Thai, like from Thailand, like we've got all over the world.
Yeah, and
coming together. And you know what? I think a lot of people too still kind of conflate the concept of land races with today's hybrids. And I think we'll get into it more, but I like the idea that we can start from the beginning and kind of break into some of these genetics that have led the way to today's glories. So
yeah, maybe we start off with the definition. I actually looked that up too. Let's get the official definition via Google.
No opinion. This is real. Google knows everything.
A land race is a naturally occurring, genetically stable variety that has adapted to a specific region over long periods without significant human intervention or hybridization.
Yeah, and that's what I think people get tripped up on. Is they're like, well, what are the parents of that? Like, what? We don't have that information. We don't know how it came to be, man. It just the natural acclimation to the environment created some of these conditions. Mm-hmm. You look at like Afghani, for example. That's known for high resinous production. And resin oftentimes is a defensive mechanism for the plant. So depending on the conditions it's put through, it's going to evolve to thrive in these areas. So that's where you'll see some stuff that are dumpers. Things down all the way work down to a GMO now. People will have GMO in anything that yields really well for resin, or for rosin, it seems. Somewhere in the lineage, there'll be a GMO. If you look back even further, you'll find that it's connected to another genetic, which is usually a landrace. And then you'll find out why it has these characteristics. Look at the environment of the region it comes from. You're like, and some stuff from Russia handles the colder environments that are from like mountainous regions that are the indicas.
Serbia,
yeah. So it's like things that I feel looking into, again, Afghani, prime example, that's a warm, dry region, and it's going to be somewhere the climate doesn't favor our plant. So to have something thrive there is nuts. So then that, let's say, being bred into something that's out here in Nevada, that you'd literally be like, well, shit, I want something that's going to have the same original grandparents that went through the desert, like me here, you know? Like Pakistan for you, that was a prime example. It was Pakistan Valley.
Yeah,
that's a prime example of something where it's like, oh, that region.
a little hardier to resistant to heat.
Yeah, you'd be able to have that acclimate into another region that has similar traits, or something from the Mediterranean area, then going in like Colombia, you know, like those, or Colombian gold.
Mm-hmm.
These are ones that I think made people now, if they knew about the lineage, they'd use this for breeding projects, intentional strategic breeding, instead of just permanent markers hot right now. This other one's hot. Let's make them breed, you know?
Yep. Good conversation.
That's it. Shout out, end of the episode.
One thing I wanted to kind of like allude to is like the concept of like, I can't stand walking into a dispensary these days because it's still, what are you looking for? Sativa, indica, THC, and it's just like, it's like nails on a chalkboard when I hear somebody say that, because it's like, I'm a strong believer that the concept of indica and sativa has been bred out of the majority of genetics of today. So to refer to a sativa as something that's going to be a little more euphoric, something that's going to be a little more for me motivating, I guess is a good way to put it. You could get that same kind of feeling, that same kind of effect from an indica. And so it's like today everything's been so blended and so hybridized that you don't have an indica or sativa anymore. You really don't. I think you might find it in the growth characteristics.
Yeah, botanical. Yes. We've kind of talked about that before. The botanical side is all indica and sativa is. And I think when you did have these old land races, the terpene profile was so specific to this region that it had those effects of lethargic, or like, again, Afghani being hashy. It has that flavor that's just like earthy, soil, old school kind of funk. And I think that's where, knowing where it comes from, you get the idea of that. Or like something sweet wouldn't be in such a harsh climate. You know what I'm saying? The plant's gonna react like a lizard would. One's like a chameleon that'll change its appearance to basically blend in where it's at. I think, again, I keep saying Afghani because I was working on a video of that. Like that having like blueberry being the descendant, or why am I stuck? I had some Northern Lights, the one like you grew. Those then become a breeding stable for other ones. They're like, I'm going to take the original land race, put that with something else, and now this is my new starting point. Some of these land races are 12 weekers, 13 weekers. They're not doable to most of us home growers these days. Durban Poison, good 11, 12 weeks if you really want to knock it out of the park. Have you guys ever had the pleasure of growing like a straight up land race and seen the difference? I mean, I guess, yeah, you with the...
Yeah, I've grown Pakistan Valley, which is landrace out of Hindu Kush region. And that one I really loved. My roommate actually introduced me to that one, and he wanted it because of its narcotic effects. And it really makes you sleepy. And that's one thing I loved about it so much, is that I could smoke some of that, literally lay down in bed, and then fall asleep like that. It was so easy to fall asleep. And so, but yeah, I grew that out, and it was beautiful plant, real small, right? It stays squat. It's 100% indica. And so it stays squat, real tight internodes. I only really had to top it once, and then that's it. And it had all these other plants around it that were outgrowing it, just because, that's just the structure and the genetics. It just stays small. And with that one in particular, usually landrace you hear about being longer flowering times. This one in particular is a shorter flowering time. It's only 45 to 55 days flowering time. So it's freaking awesome. Yeah. So a couple of things I really like about it were those things. Now there are several land races out of that same region, right? I got the cheat sheet here, the Hindu Kush. So that one is out of the same exact region. It says known for heavy resin production, earthy aromas, and deeply sedating effects. So very similar the same region.
It's like the region forces it to have these effects again because the plant's defense system. Like that's the crazy part. The cannabinoids, the things we like the most is the plant trying to survive half the time and thrive. And I think those harsher regions, it just shows is how they'll call it that can thrive if put in the right environment. Now everything's so watered down. I wonder if you could take, something that's been bred 50 times and put it out there in these regions and it would survive. It'd probably take generations.
Probably not.
It'd have to repopulate itself, have to male and female plants there, let them naturally breed and just throw off more seeds and just continue on its own. Because it's got to be, this is total bro science, that's got to be how these land races have maintained. No one's going out there and cloning these damn plants way back then, 1,000 years ago, and like for Thai plant, there's not a person likely going out there cloning it and replicating it. It's the seeds falling off. So they're letting them interbreed and they're creating their own unique profile. Like they're, again, humans, prime example, we evolve over time based on our environment and having to run, our feet are different, our backs move different, like our hands, our teeth for eating meat and vegetables. I think the same thing with plants. We don't give plants now 1,000 years to develop. Most people are 6 months, if that, and they got new freaking genetics on the market. I think that's the difference now. We're losing touch because we have to keep up with the Joneses. Nobody wants to spend 10 years on one strain. The hype is done on that. Will there ever be landrace preservation?
Yeah, I think so. I think too, like the reason we have land races, they still exist. You can still go to these regions in the world and you can still find on the side of the road, like it just grows
Kentucky
naturally.
ditchweed.
Yep. Yeah. And the thing is like, I think there'll always be that foundation, that starting point. Because if you think about it, it's only been 50, 60 years that we've really started to change land races into what they are today. Because there's a reason that people started to cross them and breed them and try to find desirable traits. Because plants that naturally grow outdoors don't grow at their greatest. Trees, and for example, when they're grown too close to each other, they grow too high or too close and they thin out and they don't have huge canopies. And then that's going to continue through the lineage. And genetics after that will kind of have maybe similar traits over time. It's like, well, when we find these land races, like Thai sticks, for example, is the one that I grew, and it was tall, it was lanky, there was the smaller buds, and it's like, well, the effects though were fantastic. So growth qualities, not so great. Effects, great. So it's like you start to build a project on that, and the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, we really started to put these genetics together to have what we have today. And I think to long-windedly answer your question, yes, we can go back to those originals, those Thais, the Panama Reds, the Colombian Golds, the Acapulcos, and then we could start again if we wanted to, and start breeding forwards and doing one again and trying this. But it's like, why go all the way back when I feel like that's a really far starting point? Why not go the halfway through the timeline where we bred out the undesirable and now we have the desirables, and then start from here and then build off of that?
That's like the Chill Out OG, prime example. It's like you've got the traits of a classic indica with modern smoke. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, to bring that out, Chill Out OG is a prime example of stuff that I can't necessarily smoke all day, because I do get a little lethargic if I'm smoking it all day, but it hits me heavy. And that's that indica, which for me before, I'd be like, no, indica, no effect. But you've got such an original genetic inside of it. Like Haze is Thai, Colombian, Mexican, and South Indian, separate genetics, all these land races together, but they brought what some people would say is like a original piece. Haze being bred into a million other genetics, and it gives you that effect. Somebody taking an original land race, finding a new genetic that has a new desirable trait, maybe the purple color, different terpene, faster flowering time, that can create our new starting point, is how I feel. If somebody can just go take Acapulco Gold and put it in with, a Chill Out OG even, so we get the short flowering time potentially versus our 12 weeks, that's where I think that people need to go back to. Instead of breeding the watered down with watered down, it needs to be like watered down with a land race. So we've got our 12 starting points that then we work with those original colors for our palette, and then we add new layers with these new hybrids. Problem is, it's not as cool to the kids, it seems, when someone's like, oh, this is a Haze, or this is a Kush. Like,
no, they want you to say, this is
played out.
This is a cookies, this is a runts, this
gelato.
Yeah.
And that's even boring. Gelato's boring. Like,
but that, like, to me, it's like, why start with something like a line that has a family tree under it.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you looking for then? What is it that, like, are you just looking for that runts? Is that what you're looking for? Or it's like, find the tree down here and then work from that.
That's what animal breeders will do. You know what I'm saying? Because they're like, well, this one could have heart conditions or this issue here, or, you know, the lifespan's not as big. So you're going to look for something that's the original bloodline to keep that pure. And that doesn't happen with bud. It's literally like pop music. Who's going to have the next hot thing? Who's going to have the next trend? And then they got to make a new one after that because it's played out this year. I don't know why that is. Like, I miss the Gorilla Glues. I miss the pineapple train wrecks. I miss these things like that. Those come from original land races. But again, I think the oversaturation of having competition, everybody needs to have their version. Everybody has to have their original piece. So they'll take it, they'll slightly modify it. Now we have a watered down version of an original indica, a watered down version of an original sativa.
I like how you referred it to the music industry because it's almost the exact same. Because it's
pop
like
culture, you
put out a song. I'm going to put out a song with just a slightly different beat. We're going to talk about the exact same thing. It's just watering it down, and then finally you get something like that. Who's that guitar dude that was just
John Mayer?
No, the Richmond dude, the rich men from Richmond.
Oh yeah, the guy who
it was just a very unorthodox sound.
It was old school,
but it
original.
just resonated with so many people. He didn't grab a song or a beat.
He made a
land
race.
He made a land race. He made a land race.
Well, when you think about it, it was old school. It's familiar. You feel like you've already had it. Even though people say he sold out for tickets, whatever, irrelevant.
Yeah.
The point is it's taking a classic. People are like, damn, why did we lose this? It's like, well, it's because it became saturated.
Because everything became so watered down.
Yeah, we need to
You
go
and I were
back.
just talking about this morning when we were talking about samples for
Yep.
musics. We were going through all the beats of like the 90s and the 2000s, even of today, and listening to the beats that we know. And then we were going back and listening to the sample where they got that music from. That's the original. Well,
That's their land race.
Even in that case, it's like, I bet you even there's an original to that, like an Aretha Franklin kind of thing, like way down here, Sinatra or something.
Yep.
Where it's like, that's even the original isn't original. It's just, it was inspired by somebody.
And that's the difference. So creating an art that you're keeping going is one thing. So you can trace it back to the original. Now, again, it's so watered down that nobody has an idea. It's connected to runts. Like, well, what the hell made runts? And what made that's parents? And what made that's like, that's how Seed Finder is a blessing for a lot of people. New website's a little confusing. I do like it being updated, but it's like, I want to know what I'm consuming. And unless there's no way for gene tracking, so to speak, but there's got to be something that can trace back to the lineage of the great-great-grandparents. We can do a 23andMe and find that out. But we need a gene bank.
Well, we have these originals still. Like, are there extinct land races? Probably.
Like Todd McCormick's talked about before, some have been lost in time, but as you find these OGs that randomly like, no, I still got it. Like, but then what is that? Is that a fucking F1? Or is that a self? That's an S1 because they just selfed the original one, or it just was naturally taken from, like, who knows? And this is a back cross.
Changed over time because being grown in a different environment, right?
Yep. All of a sudden it went from overseas to California, Humboldt. And now I think you look at some of these genetics and like, you're putting a circle in a square. So like, I can't grow this one that, like, if you wouldn't have bred the Pakistan Valley in there, my climate maybe wouldn't be as good. I'd have to change my tent up to be able to get the results that would give me that short squatty indica or the tight stacking, versus this genetic manipulation naturally works this way. But now my environment isn't Pakistan.
If it wasn't for the brisker, I don't think it would have survived in my climate at all.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the other side of it, some of these land races needed to be bred out, not for competition, but because I want to be able to
existence
grow
of survival.
Yeah.
Yep.
It makes sense.
It's very cool.
We're at a point now where, like, it's similar to pop culture again. People circle back to retro 70s style stuff, or like everybody like the 90s thing right now. And I think we're getting that way with bud because we've gotten so saturated with everything. Everybody does the same stuff. You go to the store, it's all runts, it's all gelato, it's all cookies, all the same thing with a million different names. You could have a whole list and it's like, well, I bought the same meal over and over and over as McDonald's, Burger King, or Culver's, you know?
Yeah, and you even trace that back. You go to the food industry, it's like, well, it's still getting dropped off by Cisco Foods.
Yeah.
That hamburger that came from McDonald's is the same hamburger.
Race.
Yeah, that's their land race, right? It's like, it's all the same burger. You go to a steakhouse over here or a steakhouse over here, it's the same meat. It's just prepared different.
Different box.
Different cook.
Where did you get the Pakistan Valley originally? Was it a breeder that you found?
World of Seeds.
So, and that could potentially be a replica too. You know what I'm saying? And the fact it was like, look, they're just saying they had to breed this to keep this. So what did they do? What did they cross this with to get it? Or was it a self S1? How do we get land races now?
I don't know how they do the preservation, but they're one of the ones that are known to preserve land races in particular.
I think Todd McCormick, World of Seeds, and a few others, they're good at keeping the old school around. I think it's just the fact that the young generation doesn't give a shit about that. It's only the old dudes. We're all like, yeah, man, bring back old.
It's almost like an evolution, though. It's almost, nobody's really doing I'm just thinking of paintings from back in the day. It's like no one's doing that old
Dave Hansen
brush
does.
water style. Yeah. Show to Dave. When it comes to music, nobody's using a spoons anymore. Nobody's using. I'm just trying to think
accordion.
of really old. Sure. Yeah. You move on and you build from that. You might have an artist that wants to go back to that accordion sound or whatever, but it's a passion. I think we're pretty passionate enough where it's like, yeah, we'll probably seek out those. Where it's like you got maybe some younger cats that are like, nah, I'm more passionate about this runts. This runts is what I remember when I was in high school. I met my first girlfriend and we watched a movie and it was runts or something, right?
And that's the thing is the nostalgia smoke. For me,
Right.
I always want a sour diesel because I remember my first experience clearly was a cushy, diesel-y funk. So now Headbanger is what I pair good memories of herb to. A lot of people will have that particular flavor and they don't realize that it's like, dude, you could find this if you see another genetic that's crossed with the original parent. You can still find something that may have these traits. The GMO is a prime example. You breed GMO with anything, it's pretty much a watered down GMO. But you taste a little GMO in there. You know what I'm saying? Some genetics, a haze, once you cross and you make that haze, you're tasting a combo of the Thai, of South Indian, of all these different flavors that make one new color. Again, Todd McCormick reference, where now
Shout
we
out
got
to
an
Todd.
aqua versus a blue. Now we have a sky blue, which is a slight another variation, but that's very specific to somebody's favorite color. And without these original pieces, we can't create these other colors. But now we're losing these other colors, so now we got to take 20 mixed colors to just get the original one. That's the issue, I think, is there's nobody who can profitably preserve these. You know what I'm saying? Like, you already have to have money to kind of, like, how are you going to have a bank of undesirable genetics that people aren't after?
You know what's hurting us too is I just thought of this now is like not only are we losing we're losing the OGs. We're losing the breeders that started all this, man.
They're dying
Sam
off,
the Skunk
literally,
Man,
dude.
Dave Wilson, if I'm not mistaken, passed away just a little while ago. Rest in peace. And this is a guy that introduced haze, right? This is a guy that's maintained quality genetics.
Well, and like TGA,
original
like
genetics.
the weed nerd, you know
TGA.
what I'm saying? People who like they bred stuff that had the flavors of your nostalgic smoke.
Right.
They may be hybrids of hybrids, but you're like, this reminds me of this old flavor that I've had.
Who's gonna push Northern Lights after Todd? It's like he's the one that's got the source, but B, the passion to keep these genetics alive. Who's
I
gonna
know.
do that after Todd?
I think it'd be you guys.
That's right. It's gotta be somebody, right? It has to be somebody. Someone has to take that on, and I think that's why it's important to have conversations about where it all began. Because it's also like too. There's all these land races, and there's nothing to say because I have no idea that we didn't just isolate the good phenos of a couple, and instead of taking a path that looks like this, we just took a couple and just explored with those ones. Well, what about all the other ones? Did they get that same exploitation? Did they get the same experimentation? Did they get mixed in with the same ways? It's like, I bet you there are a ton of varieties that just haven't even been tapped in yet because it's like the few passionate took whatever they could in that time in that region, ran with those, and the rest of the world caught on maybe with those and not
And
with
they
the
took
rest.
them from that region too. So then now how they're growing it may not even have those original.
Might not even be
traits.
possible.
That my thing is with the land race, it should be if I grow it anywhere, it's going to have some of these same traits. It may not thrive because of the conditions, but it doesn't have enough genetic code to give me 100 variations like a hybrid would. Like after you've crossed that with 3 or 4 different things, that'll give you 1,000 genetic variations. With some of these, like the Afghani should be Afghani, period. It may not grow as good, it may not do, but the end product should be really similar. I think the predictability is gone with genetics now because they're so bred. It's like unless somebody does an F4 or gives you a S1 or a clone, we don't know if it's going to give me the traits that you say it is. You may see like, oh, well, kind of has those squatty look or kind of has this, but until like I wish there would have been tissue culture then. If there was tissue culture back then and somebody was able to say, I've locked these ones in, we have them, then we could have something to compare to. But right now we're looking through books and forums and some random opinion of somebody from the 70s to know the authenticity of these genetics.
And you're taking their word.
Yeah. And now I'm assuming that this is what the original one is. And it's like, well, they may have had one that was taken from the Hindu Kush Mountains and brought to Humboldt that now is a little different. The flavor is a little different. The growth is a little different because the region's totally different. I think the lost love of land races comes from keeping up with the Joneses, not from the consumers, because the consumers would keep doing it. But you got to compete with the grower next door. So I'm going to take one and maybe rename my land race. And I'm going to breed it with this other one so it grows better in Humboldt. But now we lose out as us home growers and us regular Joes being like, I just want to take out these 4 pieces you put into it and get one of these pieces. Tissue culture would be that option. You know, maybe someone's doing it. I guess we'll have to ask Todd McCormick. But it'd be cool if he was keeping some of these as tissue culture versus just a load of seeds that now he has to hand to the next person and the next person, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people say tissue culture is the future when it comes to preserving genetics. And, one other land race I want to talk about, which is one of my favorites, is Durban Poison.
Oh, yes.
Durban Poison. I got the notes here. South Africa is where that's coming out of.
Durban.
Pure sativa, famous for its energetic and cerebral high, as well as its distinct sweet and anise-like aroma.
Ease-like.
Anise. A-N-I-S-E.
Anise-like aroma.
On your knees, like.
But this is one that I had my buddy grow out this one as well. He really liked land races, and he would always Durban Poison. He grew out the Pakistan Valley, and this one was more of a lengthier one, longer flowering time from what I remember.
12 weeks for mine.
But I remember it being just so like uplifting, high and energetic, and just pure sativa like.
Laughing, goofy. Yeah, that was the high school high. That was the effect of just like dying of laughter and eating so much food. That was my first named bud. From brickweed to chronic to Durban Poison. I was like, whoa, what is this?
And a longer flowering time, it was like stretchier from what I remember. Of course, your environment's going to impact how it grows and stuff like that. But for the most part, a little bit airier of a bud structure on it. But
spear-like buds.
Really, it's the effects. It comes down to people who are looking for the effects. That's why they grow a lot of these land races. And Durban Poison is one of those ones that, honestly, I am considering potentially doing some sort of breeding project with it eventually.
Dude,
I don't have anything in
there. With Chill Out OG?
Yeah,
I didn't even think
bring a
about
lot
that.
into it. Yeah,
Pakistan Valley Durban Poison crossed with Brisker. That's a whole different, like literally, that's old school, new school.
Because the Brisker OG, that's within the Chill Out OG, right? That has the Peanut Butter Breath, Tahoe OG, and then you go back on that lineage, and it can take you. There's a lot of stuff in there, so it would be a pretty good combination. I just have to figure out exactly what I'd be looking for. You know what I mean?
You don't want that 12 weeker.
Yeah, short. Get a shorter flowering period. Maybe really bring out those effects from the Durban Poison, along with some of the other effects from either the Pakistan Valley or like the Brisker OG side of things. But yeah, I think starting out with land races when you're doing a breeding project, I think is a lot of people are for, and I think that's how you get to a true F1. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I've got this hybrid and I'm crossing it with this hybrid. Now I have an F1. Well, I think a lot of breeders say, no, that's a poly hybrid. That's not a true F1. You want to actually have a land race and cross with a hybrid, and then that's a true F1. So,
and then you breed down from there.
Yeah.
That's that's like the hardcores will say that too. The new generation's the same as calling it quarter of seventh. They don't care what logic is. They don't care. They're just gonna say, this is what I say. It's like, okay. I think that's the big debate with a lot of people of accessibility versus like we need to keep the new age, the nuance of new genetics going, but we don't have access to like ordering bear paint I know I'm getting blue, it's going to be this particular blue, ordering it like this, you get it sent to your house. If we had that genetic option, I can't trust that a seed bank's going to have the exact thing that I want. So now I have to hunt this 12-weeker out of 10 regular seeds and go through and hope that I'm going to get the characteristics from what I'm looking for. Hope and pray. And that's just tough for a lot of people. And then you can't go get a cut or a slip of this unless you really know somebody. Like you got to know the OG who's kept this around through prohibition, through all the breeding, the everything. I mean, look at Subcool had a fire and burnt down half his stuff. It's gone. It's gone. Like when it's gone, it's gone. Mm-hmm. So how does somebody keep this from the 60s and 70s, like all the way to now, and we know it's legit? I'd love to be able to have like Headbangers my baby. So I'm like, let me just go pick out one of the 12 land races from landrace.com. You know, it's like, no, it's just not an option. One day, maybe, but it'll probably be super genetically modified to the point where it's a replica. It's not really the original, but it's damn near the original, you know? I think we should honestly, maybe we'll see in the comment section, do an episode about what some of these genetics made. Because like Durban Poison made Girl Scout cookies, one of them, I believe. So let me know if I'm dumb in the comments. And that is made a million other genetics. And that's what people know as like one of the original hot one. You got GSC? Or then the cookies out of that. I think that would be a cool conversation to educate people on how the great grandparents of their favorite strains were to come.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
100%. One thing I think is really interesting too is like it kind of ties back into like the manipulation over time and the finding of desirable traits is trying to manage these genetics through the lens of time and the cultural position of where we were as a civilization at a time. Because if you think about, and I've heard this story from Todd, and I think it's great that we have this conversation about land races, and Todd's our reference. I think that's great.
We should have brought him into this conversation.
Great.
Maybe a part
I got
two.
his number.
Part
I gotta
two.
hit him up. Yeah,
Part two.
we'll have to-
He has already said many times he would love to come on the show.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the 60s and 70s, for example. And I remember I was talking about what that timeline where it's like we took C and D genetics and we ran with those ones, and then we incorporated a B. But it's like, but then the 60s and the 70s came around, and then you had essentially prohibition of where it was massive crackdown. Home
War on
growers were
drugs.
getting busted. The war on drugs, thanks to Nixon and Nancy
And the Reagans.
in the Reagan,
Mhm.
Nancy Reagan, right?
Yep.
Yeah. People were breeding out the abundant smell of skunk, and so that was so naturally people couldn't smell the stuff that was coming from your house or your operation, and you weren't getting busted. So for a time, for probably a couple decades, skunk was removed from the equation. And so if you're breeding anything that's tied to that time, you might not even have the characteristic of the skunk
You
that's
can't even get
in
access
that
it.
lineage. It's gone. They took the smell out of it. So it's like the fabric of time through where we are as a civilization has a huge impact of what we have the ability to do. We talk about tissue culture. We think, wonder if Todd kept that. No, of course he didn't. He come from a time of tissue culture.
That's a new thing.
That's new science. That's a new ability that now our culture and our civilization is able to do, that will now hopefully start that trace, that lineage, that family tree of these genetics where we can say, yeah,
23andMe.
this is it. That's it. Yeah, your little
If I
heritage.
can take a snip and find out if it's a male or female, if it has HLVD, there's got to be a way to
Yeah.
find a genetic code makeup.
Well, why
know?
can't we go to the Hindu Kush Mountains? Let's go
Let's head out
and
there.
go grab some Hindu Kush, grab its genetic, test it. Should we not then be able to test any other genetic to see if there's a genetic makeup or DNA match?
Well, I
of
think
any
this is
kind?
where your cannabinoid testing, your terpene testing, where like it'll change based on the defensive mechanisms the plant has to do. So it will give you different results here grown in an indoor setting, you know, in Nevada versus outdoor setting
wouldn't
in
it-
Hindu Kush region.
But in the same way that we can tie, like, say, I don't know where I come from in the world of time, but
I
it's
don't
like,
know where I am.
if I take a blood sample or a DNA sample, I should still be able to see the DNA of my ancestors from.
See, but I think that's because they've got a bank of genetic banks. They can
well,
test it towards
so
something.
all I'm saying now is like, yeah, because we had those banks back then. But
Yeah.
what if from now on, we as a group, the three of us, we go and get Panama Red, we get the Acapulco Gold, we get the Colombian, we get the Afghans, the Kush, we collect them, we sample those. We have a clear genetic code of Hindu Kush, and then we go to your bag and we go, let's just take
And
a
we can
sample
test it, yeah.
and sample and see, can we see that
Seedsman,
code
you guys should do this.
in this at all? Like someone's
come up
onto
with
this.
stash.
This has to be happening already on some level.
Well, yeah,
because it's-
CRISPR projects.
Does that
and-
not work like that? Do you think that I could tie it back in some way, form, or?
I don't
Just
think
the
so.
flower.
No.
I don't know if the end product though.
I'm thinking
Probably
the
actual
plant.
The plant,
the
yeah,
plant
DNA
tissue.
from
Plant.
the
Maybe not
plant.
your bag, but
Yeah.
from your tent. You
Yeah.
go and you grab that plant tissue.
Well, and that's where it's like you grab the beans and you're able to test them for authenticity by sending it in for the code bank, and they're like, oh, nope, this isn't legit.
It only depends
Or this-
upon
this
them
is
having that information.
93% likely that this is
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Right.
even just that, give me an idea
Right.
of it's like an AI chat detector. To
I don't
tell
feel
if
like that's
somebody
impossible.
plagiarized something. You know, it's the same thing. Yeah, let me know. give me an idea. And this is something we talked with Swank, a little bit about with the genetic tracking for commercial grows for licensing and stuff, things we may or may not work on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to make things easier to trace back. The problem is, again, profitability. Everything's about business. And where is it profitable for a company to do this? They'd have to charge you for the testing. They'd have to charge some
I think
seed
that's fair,
bank
though.
to store the stuff. There's got to be.
Well, what you're explaining right now kind of reminds me of Phylos Bioscience.
Oh, ugh,
they
yes.
have
I'm
they
not
have
familiar.
some sort of genetic.
They're trying to have like a bank where they can.
Bank,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know exactly how they do their testing, how they show their data, or anything like that. But yeah, what you're explaining, I think it kind of already exists
Yeah,
at
it has
some
to.
level.
Just I think owned by the devil, and I think that's
Yeah, 'cause they were looking to. I don't know if you know that
Patent
story
stuff.
behind them.
I don't.
Yeah, they were looking at patents. They were telling their
that's
investors.
them.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
Yeah,
I
this is
do
the one
know
that
their
they tried.
investors, we
People
got
tried
this
saying
bank.
Humboldt Seed Company was pushing with, and they were trying to do it to again. The original thought process was a code, a bank, to be able to store everything and see
Right,
what it is, and
right.
then it turned to we're going to patent the IP on all these.
Right. Can't do, no, you can't
That's
do that.
not okay. And I
But
think
it's got to be done by the devil first.
that's the tough part. If the devil always does it first.
That's right.
And the thing is somebody will set the blueprint for another person who's like, dude, I'm going to do this. I've got
and
the funds already.
Forget about a patent. I'm just gonna monetize the process.
Yeah.
Like you said, I of course charge to get samples. Of course
100%.
charge for storage. Of
Dude, I
course
would pay
charge.
all day to test my genetics to
Uh-huh.
know the lineage of
Yep.
that. Holy
It just can't be
shit, that'd
exploitative.
cool.
Exploitative. You know what I mean?
That's exactly.
like $1,900
Per sample.
Per sample.
Yeah.
That's
When
where
you-
it would start. You know,
And it would make sense at a commercial level. Again,
Sure,
that
sure.
makes she's got the problem is you could just go home from your commercial grow and be a home grower now. And then just send it in. They wouldn't know any difference, you
Right,
know? But I guess your name being tested against the database should be something. But it should be if you're a home grower and you're not a licensed commercial grower, my fee's not the same. If you're a commercial grower, I don't know, I guess it's because for profit versus for consumption, you know? It's just we don't have the option yet where they care about us. I feel like there probably is an option for commercial grows.
I feel like it's being worked on. It, like you just said, it makes sense that there's already a version of this, but it's IP, right? So not somebody's not
We can't
gonna-
access it.
Right. Somebody's going to want to keep this tight until they at least have a library of sorts where they can say, okay, this is our product. Check it out. So
Oh, boys.
it's in the making. It's in the making for sure.
This could be a from the stash bank over time. Who knows? We got
Yeah.
the three of us.
I'm
and
telling
we're
you, let's go to
passionate as
Panama,
hell, man. Like,
let's do some trips.
well, like strain hunters, man. Yeah,
That'd be
you know,
dope.
shout out to them. I think that's the prime example of somebody who's trying to preserve original pieces of our history of the plant. You
Dude,
know,
I love to. No, I wouldn't actually.
I don't want to
wanna
travel either.
I don't want to travel.
No,
No,
if
yeah.
we could do AI version and we could travel through a virtual world from home.
Yes, yes. Just smell those turfs. Yeah. Just to let's make a full circle. It's like, what do you think the future of land races are? I like the idea of using them to kind of tie back our genetics. So it's like they're not gone because we need them to figure out where do our cookies come from, where does insert come from, right? So it's like that. I see us using them as the foundation to getting more information to how we got to where we are, for sure.
I think you're still going to have the hardcores that are there to preserve it, there to preserve it. And I feel like we're going to be kind of, I don't know, chasing our tail, but like going back, we've done so much hybridizing of genetics. And I feel like people are starting to get sick of it. They're like, oh, people are just breeding for looks and everything's pretty, but it has a cardboard flavor. Go back to land races. So I think a lot of people are going to kind of go back to land races and really use those more in breeding projects. Say, hey, look, back to the basics. Look what we got. We're revisiting this and we're bringing something potentially new out of it. So yeah, I think it'll still stick around, and I think it'll kind of be repopularized every now and then.
I agree.
That's the exact same thought process as I have. I think the accessibility of AI and growing to be able to help smooth these processes out and genetic tracking and all this different technology that's coming into agriculture as a whole, that's going to make it so we have access to these things on a mass level. So it's like, well, there's a platform that I've bred this out so far and it's gone too far. I can track to see, man, we're 100 genetics out and we're so far away, but I can go get this original one to kind of bring
Bring her
it back to maintain this, but to pull it back to the original flavor. If we have a trusted, vetted process of doing that, I think that's going to revitalize our genetics. Because it's like, we're getting so far out that our magentas are like, what color is, what do you identify what color that is? It's like too much hybridization makes it so we don't even have a distinct, unique category for each genetic. It's candy flavors or OGs,
I also feel like land races are going to play an important role in the medicinal side of things because of that very same
cannabinoids.
reason.
Yep.
Is like everything's so washed out. there's patients out there that need a particular cannabinoid. They need a particular effect. They need a particular plant. And I feel like the way we're going to get there is to get away with the washed out stuff, get back to the particular pheno, the particular cannabinoid, that particular effect, and then go from there and be like, okay, we have something that's potentially, say, cancer suppressing. I don't want to say it's going to just get rid of it, but it suppresses it. So it's like, okay, well, let's find ways that, cancer patient A can get an effect where it's like it alleviates their nausea. Cancer patient B has the ability to recover their cell recovery faster. So it's like, that's where I feel like Landrace are going to play a big effect, is in medicinal.
Well, and those are the purified versions of it. It's like, again, we're instead of stepping on the bag like everybody does and lacing it, we're going to have it so it's like more pure. And I think the more pure the pack is, the better effect we're going to get across the board. The fact that there's like 15, 20 relevant Landraces that are put into a bunch of these genetics, it only makes sense that you go so far and you back cross. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go back, and like that's what people do for stability all the time. I don't know why it's not being, and it probably is being done, but people aren't talking about it because it's not as sexy. To say, oh, I brought this back with an Afghani. They're like, why'd you bring grandma out? What? She's old as hell. She's retired. Like, we don't even
Leave her
like, we
alone.
dug her up and we're doing another one. I think people just don't get it yet. And hopefully podcasts like this can help enlighten them. We're like, damn, these weed snobs are saying this about these old 70s, ugly, high times, scraggly looking shit. It's like, no, not those ones. The one's grown better.
But that's where it all comes from, baby.
Exactly.
It's a great conversation. Yo, huge shout out to Seedsman for putting us on, bringing us out here, man. If you guys are checking them out, use promo code THESTASH. It'll help you save a few dollars off at checkout.
You could even get some Stash Blend there now.
Stash Blend now
Blend.
available.
Man. That's amazing. Big shout out to Seedsman, man. So, boys, I think, again, we should dive a little deeper. Let us know in the comment section what you guys think. We talk a little bit about the parents. Maybe we get specific into how the parents created the offsprings and the most popular ones.
Yeah.
Let us know in the
A
comments.
good one.
That'd be fantastic.
So, with that being said, it's your boy Rob from CLtv, Mr. Grow at Pigeons 420. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.